What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Courage After Dark. My name is Alvin Louie. What's up? I'm very happy, very excited for this evening. My buddy Jeff is here to go over this incredible report that he's put out on something that a lot of parents talk about it. We talk about it, but so many people still don't know what it is, and that's community schools. And obviously, community sounds great, but that's not what it is. So, share this live stream whether you're watching it from Facebook or YouTube or X. Welcome, everybody. Always appreciate you guys hopping on, hanging out with us for just a little bit on a Wednesday night. Also, also, I did something earlier today, and I think it should be on tonight. I'm not 100% sure yet, either tonight or tomorrow, I think. Is I was on for the very first time with the legendary Bill O'Reilly. It was the first time meeting him, and it was he couldn't have been more gracious. What a sweet man. And I had a great conversation. His producers, everybody was great. So I'm very excited about that. And I think it should be on at 8 tonight or maybe tomorrow night. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, Courage After Dark, please share this because I promise you, this is the kind of data, this is the kind of stuff that you will not see anywhere. There is no organization doing this. This is just a project that this guy dedicated, I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands of hours into producing. And if we had education organizations that were really about children and parents, they would be producing something like this. Not an individual citizen. And so I known about Jeff's work for, oh man, probably like as long as Courage is a Habit's been around. Maybe even before that, if I think about it. And we've used his data, we've used his stuff, his reporting and his attention to detail is second to none. So when he showed me this report about a month ago, I was like, you know what, we got to talk about it. This is, more people got to hear about this. So anyway, I'm going to bring my buddy Jeff up and then we're going to get right into it. What's up, my man?
Well, hey, Alvin, thanks for having me. And it's exciting about Bill O'Reilly. That's cool.
Yeah. It was ironically, it was about an op-ed that I wrote for the first time for the Federalist. So I had an op-ed for the Federalist talking about democratic socialism and how it's a movement for the envious and the losers. And then that was my first article on the Federalist. And then Bill is writing. He wrote a book already, and it's coming out in September. And he focuses a lot on that. And he thought, I covered some of what he was going to say and it's going to put in the book. So that's what it was. So you just never know. You never know how you get on these things. You never know. Take your op-eds and stuff. So it's just keep putting out stuff. That's what you do. Just keep putting out work.
Yeah, actually, and today in the kind of conversations, like that's one thing I haven't tried. I haven't written an op-ed before, and it's like shame on me. I think it's a good avenue to get information out, and that your story right there is another reminder of like, hey, if I've got something useful to share, something to put out there, I need to do that. It's a great way to, even for like a left-leaning paper, to post something that isn't necessarily left-leaning, to show balance, right? And if I'm not taking the opportunity, it's lost.
It really is, because every publication has their followers. People who read the Federalist could be very different than people who listen to Bill O'Reilly. Obviously, there's going to be some, so some overlap. People who read the Daily Wire is going to be different than people who read the Blaze. Mm-hmm. It may seem like it should be the same audience, but it really isn't. And I can tell it's not because of the comments, positive or negative from, you like, wait a minute, they look at things differently and you're thinking, oh, it's just conservative outlets, but it really isn't. We what it is when you do the left outlets, the super left leaning, they're monolith. They all sound the same. But I've, so yeah, I encourage you. I mean, you've got so much, it's such a unique perspective on the data, right? You go right to the heart of it. No bullshit, no theatrics. You just go right to the data of it. And yeah, you definitely should write an op-ed. And it forces you to talk about all that you know in 800 or 900 words, which is actually very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, that's I've used that line. Now I'm blanking on the name. Who's the one? The quote. I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one.
Yeah, right.
It's I can't believe I'm blanking on who's. Come on, it'll come to me later.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I tell my kids that too. It's like it's hard to be concise, but it's
It's
important to have that skill.
it's the hardest skill. If you know
Yeah.
something, it's the hardest skill. And the irony is that if you can be concise, it means you've achieved mastery.
Yeah.
If you don't actually master your topic, everything seems complicated and you're very long-winded. But if you've mastered something, you can explain no matter
Mhm.
how complicated, you can explain it in 5 or 6 minutes. Not, layer, right? There's a lot of missing context and layers, but you
Right.
can explain it to the layman. And honestly, that's, for what you do, for what I do, being able to do that oftentimes mean more than anything else because let's face it, most of the people that you support, the people that I support are parents with school age children who don't have a
Mhm.
lot of time.
Yeah. They need to know, how does it affect me? Why does this matter? What can I
Yeah.
do about it? Can I do
Yeah.
anything?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, this will be a good test. You can test me. How good are my answers, and am I being concise, and do I know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? Because I can ramble. I
that
will
but
try
that's
to
but
try to rein it in.
so much. So, all right. So, everybody just share this. Like I said, this is my buddy Jeff. We've known each other for many years, and I have such a great respect for his work. He's always about the data. He always gets right into it, deep into the data. We both fight the indoctrination in K through 12, but we come at
Mm.
it from a very, very different way. And I've learned so much from him, and I'm going to learn a lot from him tonight. I know you're going to learn a lot from him. So, share this, please. So, Jeff, why don't you just tell everybody kind of where you live and kind of just how you got into this. Everybody's story is a little bit unique. Give everybody just a brief who you are, and then we'll get into this an incredible audit that you did.
Yeah. So I'm out here in Beaverton, Oregon, like the belly of the beast here on the West Coast. People seem to forget that there's a state in between Washington and California, but we're there, and we're just as crazy. It's a competition
You really
between the
are.
three states of who can go the craziest and who's the most socialist now. Yeah, I've been here a while. I have two kids in the public schools, and you'd think, why would a person keep their kids in public schools knowing what you know? And it's a longer story, but their parents or their kids of a previous marriage, I have them 50-50, and they're I can't just pull them. And they're old enough now; they have agency, and I think I've done the best I could to keep them as critical thinkers, and they
True.
know when to tip off dad that something's going awry. I will admit I do have one lawsuit going against the school district, so I am a bit of a thorn in their side to keep things
Hey,
reined in. But yeah, I guess
that's great. What's the
yeah.
lawsuit? If you don't, can you? I don't know if you can you at least mention what the lawsuit
Oh,
is?
sure. So they implemented a digital hall pass system last year. They didn't tell any of the parents. There was no information about it. And really, what it is there was a slide deck that was presented to these kids in middle school and said, look, instead of asking to go to the bathroom and then we'll give you a pass, you will now go onto your Chromebook and you will indicate that you want to go to the bathroom, and you have to specify somewhere between 1 and 5 minutes is how much time you need. And if you're past the time you asked, then there might be a consequence. And the teacher then has to go and approve these. So they'll queue up, the teacher approves them, and then they'll go off and go to the bathroom. And you'd think, well, that doesn't sound horrible. Like anything that's starting to track the stuff or that kind of data being in these systems was a little bit sketchy. But then to find out, okay, there was more behind the story of like because I asked them, who all has access to my daughter's bathroom data? It was 152 staff members. So that was pretty much everyone in the school, including office, every teacher of every grade, kids or teachers my kid doesn't go to, and then a bunch of people outside her school. Every nurse in the whole district, so we're talking 40 nurses. This is a 57 school district. Random teachers in other schools, the bus driver admin department had it. The foreign exchange student admin could see it. Digital curriculum. It was like really weird. I said, this is not right. This is just does not pass the sniff test. You should not be handing out all this data. And then also the other part is they use the data to analyze kids who might have unmet and undiagnosed medical needs. And if they believe that there are those cases, they will schedule counseling sessions with kids.
Wow.
All before
Wow.
a parent would even be told. A parent would only
Wow.
find out if they decide after the counseling session with the kid that they think they need to tell you.
So if a kid goes, you know what, I'm just gonna keep filling this out because I just want to go to the bathroom. I don't want to be in class.
Yeah.
And they're gonna go, hey, how come he's going to the bathroom 3 times an hour? There must be a medical problem. That's what you're saying? That's how they could interpret it like
They
that?
could. Absolutely, because they said they're looking for the high users and they're trying to understand if there is some other need. And you could say, you know what, this is coming from a decent place. They want to help children. Okay. But you don't get to do that absent the parent. Like, you don't get to replace the parent. And that's kind of the issue was that I first went after. It's a longer story. That first part of the case kind of fell apart. This is me trying to represent myself, which was stupid.
Yeah, right.
I hired a lawyer and he's helped reframe it. And now we're going at it a different way because it's a privacy issue. And that's more the real issue. So my daughter's data being just so out there.
That's all the data.
She said it's creepy.
Jeez.
And,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
she's just a
Everything's
kid.
creepy. Everything's creepy in the schools. Jeez, that's crazy. They call it my co-founder Jennifer, she's found this gigantic loophole for data. They call them authorized personnel or authorized representatives. That's what it is. Authorized representatives. And she goes, they say the data is private. They'll say that the data is private. Social emotional learning data, everything's private. The bathroom data is private. And then the way she explains, she's like, well, yeah, it's private. Like, your neighbor can't look at it. But they have this loophole for all data in schools called the authorized representatives can see it. So she goes, well, then what's an authorized representative? Everyone but you. Everyone but the parents, the janitor, the painter, the nurse, like the next, across the state, any of the NGOs.
Anyone they say is
an
authorized is authorized. Yep. And my son shared some stuff with me. Of just like examples of data that they give to NGOs that he stumbled on. And it is insane. Like, they're giving all like student rosters and all this other like data of what courses they're taking for the entire school. And they're giving it to a local nonprofit who I happen to know and is, I don't know. I mean, but there actually is a tie back to community school because Oregon is rolling out this model pretty much statewide. And this is how it shows up in different ways. So, not that I'm trying to bridge it back to that conversation, but it's just that there is a connection to these things. It wasn't planned.
No, it
wasn't planned, but there is a connection.
This is a great bridge. You know what? Before we got on, we were like, you know what? We're not going to talk about this at all because I want everyone to witness a genuine conversation because I had questions about the thing. And so that's a great bridge. It's as if we rehearsed it, Jeff. This is excellent.
It is. We rehearse it.
All right. So great bridge. You did this incredible audit for community schools. Before we get into your report, and for everybody that's on X, we threw it into the Courage After Dark post, so it's in the thread. You can look at it and download it and follow along if you like. And of course, give Jeff a follow. Share this live stream, everybody, wherever you are. Share it because we're going to get right into his report. So before we get into your report, what do parents think, or what do schools make parents think a community school is? How do they sell it?
Well, so they'll sell it as a way to give more learning time for students. So they'll target the, what are the perceived benefits, like that one of the pillars. So there's a 4-pillar model of what is a community school as defined by Learning Policy Institute and the others who, I mentioned that report. But one of the pillars is this expanded learning time. So after school programs, extracurriculars, lengthening school days, summer learning. I mean, these can be good things, right? Tutoring. I mean, sure. I mean, who wouldn't? If a kid's struggling to have an after-school program that they can join, or a summer program funded by the school, right? A lot of these things individually sound decent, right? They sound good. And so that's a key selling point. The other one, and actually I have argued with, I'm not a very political person, not savvy in the world of politics, but I've gotten to know some of our local state politicians and have tried to educate them on community schools because we've been rolling out the model, but not really calling them that. It's only recently that they've started to use the term, but the school-based health center is something that's popped up pretty much everywhere. They're all over the place. And that is like a hallmark or a calling sign of a community schools. You will see the health center arrive. So if you have a school-based health center, pretty much you can bet you're somewhere along the line of implementing the full community school model. That's a good foot in the door. And the selling point is, hey, your kids need more learning time. The less time they're out of class, the better, right? So rather than having to come to school, take your kid to their doctor's appointment, and then bring them back, what if the service was right there in the school? What if we could deliver a lot of those primary care services? This isn't the nurse's office. This is a third party who's using some of our space, and we're going to set up a health center, and it's, HIPAA compliant. We'll be, there's the privacy in place. Sounds great, right? I mean, convenient for parents. Why wouldn't you want that? Well, it's another one of those areas where it sounds good, but in reality, it's pushing a lot more than you think it does. Yeah, I know you've done material on this.
No, it's part of it. Yeah, this is big part of the community schools, right? So we'll
Yeah,
throw this under we'll throw this in the link as well. But mhm. So
yeah,
that's one of the selling points is the medical centers.
right. And what's funny is this is the part that's not told right away is they'll say, this is great for the students. We can do some primary care work if they get injured or if they just need a doctor's visit, a well visit, right? We can handle some of that vaccinations we can handle there, which I know that sets some people off, but they can handle a lot of those services. What they don't tell you is that the School-Based Health Alliance, which is the big national group behind the school-based community,
Okay.
school-based health centers, guys, a lot of words. That model isn't just about providing healthcare to kids, it's about providing healthcare to families, to adults who don't have kids. So, I mean, it's for the community. So that's what you have to remember is when they talk about services in a community school, you have to ask the question of who in the community is this for? Because in most cases, the health centers, if they don't offer it right away, they will be offering it because that's the model. It'll be more than just services for kids or for staff. Sometimes they open it up the door to staff, but it'd be for anyone in the community. It could be somebody dealing with homelessness. They'll bring them in and they can give them care. And you'd say, well, maybe that's nice, but also should they be around kids
Mhm.
during the school day? I don't know. Like, what are the protocols in place to separate this? And then who are these organizations running the health centers? Like some around here, there are different nonprofits that do a whole lot of lobbying and somehow manage to always get the money in the contracts. And I just don't know what their goals are. And they also like offer, abortion access. They offer the puberty blockers. I mean, it
Mhm.
varies, but not saying they all do, but it's like those stories are true where these health centers offer those services, and it's usually state by state what they can get away with.
That's right.
And then also the weirder ones is when they offer housing, rental assistance, immigration, legal support for undocumented people or legal aliens.
Yeah.
That's a head scratcher. Like, wait a minute, the model includes a health center involves legal assistance for illegal aliens in the country? And the answer is yes, that is absolutely part of the model. Go look up the School-Based Health Center or Alliance.
Yep.
They track this because that's the full model. So you gotta make sure you know what you're asking for or what they're pitching and what it will become. Two different things.
What they pitch and what they will become. That is such a great way to put almost 99% of what schools try to bring in. It's always to
Yeah.
help black kids, poor kids, brown kids, and then it ends up being puberty blockers, illegal aliens, abortions, and the guy who is on parole,
Yes.
who has Medicaid, right? I think I obviously we've talked to a lot of parents about this. I want you to before we're gonna get into your report, but I want you to, because you brought it up, talk a little bit more about how community schools doesn't sound like what it sounds like to parents, like the school community. You're talking about the
Mhm.
wider community.
Right.
So people who are on parole, drug violations, whatever, homeless people, they can, if they're on Medicaid, they can go to your child's medical center that was supposed to only be for, a sports physical.
Right. That's what we were told. Like, this is a great service for kids. Here it is. But yeah, that's the
How
scary part.
how did they justify that, do you think? How what have you seen them justifying that? And then obviously no parent, no sane parent anyway, to woke white mothers who trans their kids, probably not, but most sane parent will be like, "Yeah, that's okay. My daughter's gonna go get an aspirin or get a knee exam for the sports physical, and then there's gonna be these homeless people and these drug addicts and these people marching through because it's a community school." Obviously, no parent be good for that. With that, how have you seen, or at least in Oregon, how have they been able to skirt that, hide that, whatever,
It's just
obfuscate
not
that?
talked about.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the, from what I've seen, I don't have a window into what every state does, but I think if they were to tell people that directly, like, this is a school, this is the health center. I know we call it school-based health center, so it sounds like it's for just the school kids.
Mhm.
It's not. Like, I've seen them launch. I forget, it was a few months ago. They launched a new one. There's a big ribbon cutting ceremony, and I'm just going, oh, another one here in Oregon. And everyone's happy about it. Like I said, I was talking to legislators, on the Republican legislators, who were arguing with me about they could not go up against these health centers because their constituents want them. And I just was looking at her just like, you are an idiot. Sorry to be direct, but I'm like,
That's
lady, you're not getting it, because it's not a good thing. Now, I get it that they're asking for it, and it might hurt your relationship with the Department of Education if you're going against them, but take a stand. Don't just like accept this. But it's hard because not everybody knows why
yeah,
it's bad. They
yeah,
look at it and they say, well, my constituents seem to like it. It's
yeah,
convenient.
yeah.
Yeah, it's convenient now, but then wait until they're having to stand behind, three, drugged out homeless people, and for their turn. Like, this isn't just for school kids. Yeah, good luck when you find that out.
Well, I think what you said there, when or she goes, "Is convenient." Well, what is convenient? It's convenient. It's convenient for abortions and
Yeah,
transgender drugs. It's convenient to separate children from their families because now you just, instead of having to your parents have to go do it, if you can convince your parents to go take you to the clinic to get transgender drugs, you can just on your lunchtime or after fifth period,
yeah,
walk down to the school-based health center and either get it or get a prescription for it. Like you said, some school-based health center offer it right there,
yep,
and then others they prescribe out, right?
yeah. And depending on the state, I think Oregon's age of consent is 13, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I lose access to my kids' medical records. I have already. Once they hit 13, they can go in and do
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. And it's the part that sounds more conspiratorial is when you say, like, hey, they're just trying to drive a wedge between the kids and the parents.
Mm.
They are. Maybe
They
not
are.
every staff member. Like, I'd say, the nurse there helping out or somebody working the desk, they may be clueless as to what the
Sure.
nefarious purpose of this is, but they're just a human doing a job. I
Yeah.
respect that. Okay. I
Right.
just don't respect the system that you're operating
Right.
under, and I wish your health center was somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is a big part of the community schools,
Mhm.
the health centers. Okay. What else? You said I think there was like 4 pillars. What else are part of the community schools?
Yeah,
Uh,
and if you have the ability to pull up the report, there's a graphic I made, because I'm always like, I can get wordy. I'm forced to not be wordy when I make a graphic. And it's a good one. And but I had some,
let's do it.
yeah. So it's near the back in the appendix. There's a fancy
Independence.
little
Okay. So
graph.
for everybody following along, this link to Jeff's X post is under the Courage After Dark thread,
It's page 15, sir.
page
Has
15. Oh, wait a minute. That's 15. There we go.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
By
Not the,
your document, right, right. Not by
I
the
know they're not in
PDF.
sync. Yeah.
I
There
I
you go.
always that always funny to me.
I know.
Okay.
I should have done better, because I complained about that too, saying, oh, the page numbers are different and the
So
file version.
this is the graphic.
Yeah, so that's how they spin it, right? So this is out of the Learning Policy Institute's
Okay.
materials. And
Okay.
so what's funny is like the federal government built during the Biden era, they built a toolkit on how to weave together different funding sources from all these
Mm,
different grant programs across all these different federal agencies to make these happen. So there's a lot of money, even at just the federal level, to implement these. And you'll see this graphic, or in their federal report, they actually chunked it up and like cut and cropped out parts and used it. So it's they just really just reuse this report stuff. But it shows you, yeah, there are 4 parts in their words, or we have the integrated student sports that we've been talking about, like healthcare, mental health care, which we didn't touch on, but that's a big part of it as well.
huge,
Um,
huge.
and I'm reading off my copy, but it's like the nutrition, social services. So what I also tell people is if you have social workers now as part of your school or part of your district, that's another sign that you
Mm,
likely are implementing the community school model, because social workers are not something I would expect, and they haven't been part of schools really in the past. It's been a
right.
more recent phenomena, and that's because of this model, is they're looking at schools are a place to connect people to services. So even though we have them likely at the city and county level,
Right. This
we
is
want
where
to
the kids are.
centralize it. Yep.
Want to
We want,
centralize it. And what better way, as they say, make schools a function as a neighborhood hub? Because now, if you're talking about if you have a sanctuary city,
mhm,
the school becomes a hub for that. And not only there's a lot of money involved because
mhm,
it's you put you a lot of money get a lot of money gets funneled in. It's like money laundering. It gets funneled into schools
mhm,
and it gets passed into other left wing services. More importantly, kids are around this culture and they grow up voting for it.
yeah,
This collective socialism, this
yeah,
we are a community, everything's a
that's what it is.
community. Yeah,
That we
that's
belong
dangerous.
and everyone
Yep.
belongs,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
but yeah, you're right. Like the money comes pouring in,
yeah.
and there's federal money, there's state money, there could be third party, like a lot of, you'll see a lot of foundations, private foundations that'll put money into this to kick it off,
Of
and then
course.
they back off the funding once they can get these other things running. Like the school-based health center is a great money generator because they can leverage Medicaid, right?
Right,
So they can bill to that, and that's a
right.
great funding stream. And they've called this out in their model. So like in their materials that help promote the model,
Yeah,
that was one of the biggest things, was to get Fed Medicaid money. Or
yeah.
during the COVID times, boy, I could go on and on about this, but there was a very last minute change in the Senate. It was Senate Amendment 891. I remember that.
Mhm,
And it was the last thing they did, and implement a whole rewrite of the American Rescue Plan Act. And
mhm.
it had one tiny little change for providing funding for what ultimately became like the 100+ billion that went to schools. There's one line in there about providing mental health supports, of like
Ah,
as what was allowed for schools to use the money for,
yeah.
and that there was a change made that it was mental health supports using the full service community schools model. So
Ah,
that one tiny change led to hundreds of millions of dollars from just my initial look
yes,
going into funding community schools. So they took COVID money to further this,
you're right.
real socialist collectivist takeover. It's just that's obscene to me, because that just seems really wrong that you sneak something in and do something when they couldn't pass a bill to get more money
That's right,
for
right.
this model, but we just
Yeah,
took a bunch of COVID money.
yeah, because COVID's impacting children's mental health.
Right.
That's how
And
they
there's
say it.
learning loss. And so we
Yeah,
need to do more of, like,
yeah.
I'm not seeing my school days getting longer in Oregon. They're getting shorter. I don't see it's actually driven any improvement.
Yeah.
Oregon's scores are worse.
Although these days, the less they're in school, the better.
It,
You want the learning loss because what they're learning is Marxism. So the learning loss is not so bad.
it's a
Because
trade-off.
they're
It's,
not learning actual academics anyway. Um,
yeah.
all right, so excellent. So this is how they sell it. Wonderful. So you said I have too much time on my hands. I have an extra 2,000 hours, and you said I have too much time on my hands. And you decided to embark on this audit of community schools. Is that right?
Yeah. I wanted to audit the underlying report. Like, what is the, like, I remember, and I was searching, even asked AI, went to my favorite AI model, like, hey, just to check a few sources, what would be the most cited study used to promote full service community schools?
So
And
you audited the report. Is that what we're looking
right,
at
so I
here?
took their report. So
Okay.
Learning Policy Institute and the National Education Policy Center, which is at University of Colorado Boulder
Uh-huh.
public school, mind you,
Mhm. Mhm.
and they got together and published this report. They've done many reports together and a lot separate, but in this case, it was meant to show, it was a December 2017 report, and it was often cited because it was a research of research. So they were looking at, and they, as they claimed in their little headlines, we reviewed 143 studies to back this model to show that community schools are effective. And right off the bat, that was wrong. And so it was like instantly like, well, if that one line is wrong, the rest of this can't be right. And I didn't,
Okay.
just a little history is I had done some digging into reports at the Oregon, this happened at the Oregon state level. They're not as interesting. Like we changed our graduation standards, made them easier. And I did a joint report with a professor at Portland State University who was
Oh,
interested and
wow.
said, hey, you want to co-develop a report?
Oh,
So we
wow.
both
Uh-huh.
reviewed it together
Uh-huh.
and built a
Okay.
comprehensive report to show
Mhm.
all of the errors and the faults in their logic, and just it was shoddy reporting, shoddy research. And so that's kind of where I got a taste of it. It's like, yeah,
Ah,
I think there's something here,
got it.
because this isn't just a one-off. I can go on. There's other ones in Oregon I found that are a problem. So this has been an issue of things getting pushed as appearing to be evidence-based or
Yeah.
research-backed
Yeah.
that aren't. And so
Got it.
I thought,
Got
if
it.
this is the number one cited report for everyone who's pushing the model, then
This
it's
is amazing.
definitely the one I want to look at.
And this is even though you're in Oregon, this is a report that all the states likely use or most states use to push their school-based health center.
If you
Very
see
likely.
any school pushing the community school model, they will have research. You will see, just look for Learning Policy Institute on their state education
Got it.
page.
Got it.
I can tell you it's on a bunch of them already, because I've done looking, like it's on Maine's, it's in Illinois, it's in
Perfect.
New Hampshire, it's
That's
in
awesome.
Georgia. I mean, I go on. It's
Eh,
probably just about every state.
Probably about every state, yeah, because they're
Yeah.
all the states, all the education, uh, all the education systems work the same whether you're in a red or blue state,
Yeah.
and we both know that. So Learning Policy Institute is out of Palo Alto, California. Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
nothing good ever comes out of California?
And it's an interesting organization itself. So Learning Policy Institute was founded by Linda Darling Hammond.
Oh,
So
critical race theorists.
yes, there you go. So not everyone knows her name. I figured you would.
Yep.
She
Wow.
she's
Okay.
she founded it. She had reached out. I had one of the emails I included in the report is a link to um, with John Podesta, if you know that name. Like
Yep,
his
yep.
emails got leaked, and when he
Yep,
was
yep,
helping the
yep,
Hillary campaign, well, I
yep.
found those emails and found some where Linda Darling Hammond was reaching out to him about getting guidance around starting up this left-leaning think tank
Oh, geez.
that she was going to create, and then later did create and announced it to him. And so it's just kind of interesting to see the genesis of it. And
Sure.
then, like, who were the foundations that would first kick her off? And so this happened
Right.
in 2015. She starts this foundation, and she did it at the behest of Susan Sandler for the Sandler Foundation, and that is a
Ah,
very progressive
yes.
foundation. So Sandler gave her millions of dollars to get this
Oh,
started.
sure.
And Linda in 2019 says later she's now the California. She joined the California State Board of Education and pretty much instantly was voted to be president. Has been
Yep,
president ever since.
yep,
So, and she's been pushing this community school model
yep.
there, and has even, I can say this confidently, she has signed contracts that go to people she have relationships with or has relationships with without reporting her conflict of
Mm,
interest. So I intend to do something about that reporting, but it's just little nuggets. They're very
yeah.
easy to find when you know where to look.
When you look,
Uh,
right.
so
So,
yeah,
so everybody, if you're just joining us, this is my buddy Jeff. He is a data whiz. He is a research whiz. And I've learned so much from him. Courage is a Habits Use stuff that he's put out, shared obviously almost everything he's put out. Um, and he just did this audit of the community schools. And those of us you follow Courage as a Habit, we've hit the school-based health centers, which is a big part of the community schools. But this is the report that almost all states, probably all states, use to justify community schools. And then what he did was he audited the report and showed that their data was either misleading or outright wrong or whatever the case is. So share this live stream, whether you're coming in from X, Facebook, or anywhere else, or YouTube, because this is something that is impacting schools in all 50 states. Literally, if you go to your state Department of Education right now, I don't care where you live, you can live in the reddest state or whatever, county, whatever, type in community schools and you will find it. You will find it in your school district. So, all right, Jeff, let's get into it. Now, obviously, this report is very comprehensive, 24 pages. Where do you want to go first? What are some of the big points that if you've got a parent that's going, okay, even if I don't have time to read all 24 pages, what are some of the key hallmarks of this report so that the parent has the confidence to go in and say, hey, this report is wrong? Because you and I both know that the teachers and school boards, they don't know anything about the report. They just cite it. They don't actually know.
Right.
So if you're a parent and you take Jeff's report and you listen to what he's going to explain to us tonight, and you listen to him for 10 minutes, I promise you, you will know more than anybody in your school board. You'll know more than your principal, your teachers, your school counselors. You'll know more than all of them because none of them has really read the report. They just take the word for it of an expert and said, oh, yeah, it's evidence-based. That's all they're going to say. They don't actually know. So even if you don't read the whole report, if you just listen to what Jeff is telling you, I promise you, you will know more than almost anybody, if not everybody, in your district. True, Jeff? And a lot of people, how dumb are these people in the school districts?
They don't know it. And yeah, we have one board member who's a DSA member and started proposing, we need to do community schools. I doubt she has any clue really what they are, other than maybe she knows some of the components. But she would cite
DSA,
the
the Democratic
research
Socialist.
backed. Yeah.
The Democratic Socialist. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to pop up the report again. Which page? Where do you want to go first?
Let's jump to page 7 in the doc. I'll use what Word calls it, not my bottom, the page number at the bottom. There you go. So principal audit findings. Oops. I think, yeah, you're right there. I started the page before that. This is just my attempt at trying to distill down, okay, what did I find when I went through this? Because I won't bore you all. This document, 24 pages, some of it's source, some of it's appendix. I don't expect many people to read it cover to cover. It's not a great cover to cover read. Frankly, I'd say if you want to look at the executive summary, the first 2 pages, and then maybe scan the audit findings, then that's probably going to help most people out. I wouldn't try to read the whole thing because the rest of it is really done to provide the data and the detail of okay, here's the number of studies, here's the specific categories, and it talks about the ESSA tiering and why that matters, and it does matter, but maybe not for trying to have a first conversation.
I understand. Jen will read it. I promise you that. When she gets back from traveling, she'll read it.
Right.
She'll read it cover to cover, probably twice. All right. Principal audit findings. What are we looking at here on starting at page 6? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, these are my, conclusions after going through literally all 143 of their cited studies, because they produce something called a research compendium, which is just think of it as they packaged up the list of every research study, air quote study that was part of this.
Okay.
That first finding right there is that they weren't really 143 research studies.
Okay.
And it breaks it down into more detail than probably anyone needs to try to remember, but it shows that, well, there were 143, there's 49 research syntheses, some 4 cost benefit studies, only 24 evaluations of the full model, which is funny because the model has been around for decades.
Okay.
Cincinnati's rolled it out to every school. You'd think there would be more studies of the full model, but no. Most of the studies are targeted around either just one of the pillars we talked about or just a component. They might just look at the mental health services, or they might look at an after-school program, but then try to link it to the model. So this is where kind of that next finding goes. But the first
Okay.
one just kind of shows right off the bat, I'll just say they're lying. They did not review 143 studies. Like one of them is, there's one I don't have yet because I had
Oh,
asked
wow.
Cincinnati for it. It's not a research study. They just did an evaluation report internally of their
Wow.
implementation for one school year.
They
It's
just
like,
bloated that number as big as they could
right, and
to make
so
it
they're just
sound.
like, why is an internal report from its own district a study? It's not a study. You simplified it, and
Yeah.
but you should be held to a very high standard when you're delivering a report at this level that is
Yeah.
intended to change state policy, federal policy, funding
Yeah.
all over the country.
Yeah.
So you're positioning yourself as a nonpartisan education, nonprofit,
Yeah.
but you're not acting like one who has any sort of credibility. Like once you
Oh,
dig,
wow.
you realize red flag, red flag, red flag. And why am I the first person to call it out? Because I was the crazy person to go and do this. Like we
Yes.
should have research audits as part of standard practice. I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
insane.
Yes. Yes. It's insane that
Yeah.
you're one individual doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But yeah,
finding two.
finding two just goes into where, and you see the language in there. I'm a little bit careful because you won't see me call it out as fraud, because there is a term called research fraud and it tends to be tied to like plagiarism.
I see.
So if you're looking at going, hey, why didn't you go in harder on them? It's like, well, I'm trying to stick to how others would, people who do this for a living, let's say the PhD folks who do audits, they would not call it fraud either, but it's still bad. I guess I'm just going to put it that way. So if you're
You're
just
trying to be
calling
as
out the
academic as
language,
possible. Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to be fair and stick to what is the right way to critique this that is acceptable and others do. So I stuck
Got it.
to those rules, although I would have loved to say this is completely fraudulent, this is terrible, and it is terrible. But yeah, their number two issue was really that they took, like I was saying before, they took a study or took a
Yeah.
report that said something good. Like I know there was like Harlem Children's Zone, and it's one of the reports I mentioned in here, where they had shown some improvement, but if you look at the report, it's not really there. In fact, I was just pulling up the example here I'd written where they used a good study that had dug into community schools in Harlem, and it found that there were higher quality schools in Harlem Children's Zone. However, the community programs were not shown to be sufficient, right? They didn't show that they proved the model.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I'm talking around it a weird way, but it's like they took a study where they showed some improvement, and that area did implement the community school model, but the schools that had implemented the community school model showed no marked improvement.
Oh, got
Then,
it.
so it's like
Got it.
and they disclose a little bit of this. They dance around it in some areas in their report, but they're just consistently not truthful about these examples where they'll, there's another one where, it's got Chicago and Hartford did an evaluation, and they're looking for it as being causal proof, like implement this caused, implement community school caused goodness, caused improved
Right.
academic scores, caused something. And they had maybe some positive patterns, but then there was missing data, verification issues, difficulty attributing the results to the model. They just gloss over all that. So they're basically taking studies that have all these mixed results or inconclusive results, and then they take some piece of it and then say, well, that was positive, and then we use that as evidence that this worked.
Got it.
And
Got
like
it.
you
Got
can't
it. I see.
really do that.
You're just taking credit for other things that might have made some improvements and saying, "Well, we were in the vicinity."
Yeah, but it's a repetitive thing that you think these are people who are education advocates, they're experts, right?
Oh, the
And
experts.
how am I finding their problems as I'm not an education expert? I have no PhD,
Yeah.
a business degree, but that doesn't mean I can do this. But
That's, you know what? It's probably because you don't have a PhD is why you could do this. Is, these days getting
well,
a
I can just
PhD
read
makes
stuff. It's
makes you
easy. I
dumber.
mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the funny part is you just look at their claim
yeah.
and then
You can
get the
read stuff.
report,
Yeah,
and then you look and go, wait a minute,
I get
no,
it. I did. That's a funny way to make the thing. It would be like if later on, like, at the end of the year, I'd be like, Courage is a Habit really was because of us. The community school, because of this report, was amazing because we put it out. And they're like, but you didn't write the report at all. I'm like, yeah, but Jeff told me about it and he was on the show. So,
yeah,
yeah, we'll take, it's the same thing. We put it out. They're like, you didn't put it out. Jeff just came on this show and talked about it. It would be like that. I get it. Right.
yeah. It's just
Very
interesting.
dishonest. Yeah.
And when you have somebody like Linda Darling Hammond, she almost became the education secretary under Obama. She was a finalist
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like
She's a big
she's
critical race
no
theorist. Yeah.
small person in the world. She's highly respected. She's won awards. She
Yep.
speaks at UNESCO, and she's like, so for her organization, she's not the one who published this report. It's other people, but her name's on other reports.
Yep.
And it's problematic.
So ESSA, for those of you who don't know, at ESSA is, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole because that's going to, but it's the Every Student Succeeds Act. Succeed Act. If you go to courageisahabit.org and type in ESSA, we got a high level explanation of that. But this is just a law of the land. This is a federal law. Schools follow it. So that's your background for ESSA. If you know, if you don't, go ahead and go to courageisahabit.org and type in ESSA in the search, and it's explained, what it is. So finding 5, what is this?
Yeah, this is a very detailed component. Like, it might be hard for everybody. I'll do my best to explain.
Sure.
To wrap around, but that there is actually a site where you can go and see as reports, studies are done. They can record themselves as evidence of something, right? So like if I do a study and shows that there's strong evidence that after school programs, improve academic outcomes, and depending on the level of what I've studied and did I have a control to have the quality of it, the size of it would determine, this is my best understanding of it, determining the tiering. And a tier 1 would be very strong support for what you're doing, a very comprehensive study, control. So the tiering matters in that regard. So higher tier studies generally take more time, more money, but are more powerful in trying to prove something. So, there's a database of all these ESSA tiers, reports that have been assigned a tier, but the model didn't exist. Like that site didn't exist when they did this report. And that's okay, because the rules are out there. So what they did is they used the rules of what they knew of the ESSA tiering, and they assigned their own ESSA tiers to all these research studies in their compendium, their big package document. And from what I could tell, they just consistently inflated what the tiering would be, because while it might be a tier 1 study for an after-school program, it is not a tier 1 study for the full-service community school model, right? That is a very different thing. In fact, it may not be really relevant to it. And so there was just this, let's call it the tier inflation, that again, it just makes it seem more research or more credible than it really is.
Got it. Right. So what you did was, starting on page 6, you went through and you listed out all the areas where it was either there's dishonest or misleading or outright just wrong. And then you list them out. Like, for example, ROI claims. Let's do one more. Findings: ROI claims are assumption heavy and should not be treated as proof that the model works. $15 return on investment. Hey, that's what they said about SEL. It's a $12 or $11 on return on investment. They did the same thing back in 2008, 2009 for SEL. It was like $11 or $12 return or something like that.
Yeah, this one's just laughable for me because I'm just a numbers, a data guy in my day life, and so I see stuff like that. It sounds great, up to $15, great. How did you get there? That's like my first thing.
How did you get there? How did they get there? Yeah,
I want to see your spreadsheet, right? And if you look in the notes, it mentions like these were just like a small group of studies where they assigned, I put in quotes, the social value studies. So they they came up with their own scheme of, like, not scheme, but like their measures of what is the social value of this thing that they got, and gave it a value, and then they said, here's what we think we delivered. But what they don't get into is, well, some of these, so they'll count things like, we had a community school coordinator or a social worker, they were bringing in social services. It's like, what are the value of those social services they were able to bring in? Like, because, we started a clothing drive, right? So we got donations for clothing drives, or we got some donations from this, and they would add that all up and then compare that to the cost of the community school coordinator person making 40 or 50,000.
Really?
And what they wouldn't, in one of the studies, I can't remember if it was this specific one that hit the $15 mark. I think there was another one they referenced that hit $7 return on investment, but it was a study they did after everything was done. Like, years later, they came back into the school and then just looked at the data and said, oh, you had this one community coordinator and then all these services. So they just attributed everything to that person and said, hey, huge ROI. Like, well, did you think that maybe some of those services were already being delivered? Like, these were already organizations donating to the schools. Did they actively go get them? And it's just weird to say, but that may be an ROI, but it's also a return on investment for things that aren't normally parts of school. Like, that's you have to remember that, like, once you get all the way out there and remember, oh yeah, we don't really need a clothing center or this or that, at schools. I'm not saying they're bad services, but it's just not appropriate for schools. We have other services. Schools should be a place of learning. We can't get that right. So why would we then say, well, let's do everything else too?
We can't get that right.
Yeah.
I just saw a notification on my phone. We just sold an Embrace Exclusion hat. So Jeff, I think that it's safe to say that your return on investment, for coming on the show, it's at least $5, because we make about, $8 on those hats. So yeah, I think for sure we can say your ROI for coming on Courage After Dark is at least $5. I'll send you $5 for the hat that we just sold.
No, it's great. Hey, and I bought that same shirt you're wearing. I'm glad. I was thinking about wearing it for this, and I'm glad I didn't. We would have been matching. It would look planned.
Okay. Yes,
but
you did,
so there's
sir.
two sales. You can attribute it.
Yeah. No. So there you go.
And see, I'm messing with the data because I bought one of them. But at least I'm disclosing when I do that versus these guys don't disclose. That's another interesting segue I'm trying to force here. If you want to go there.
Finding number 9. By the way, thank you for grabbing the 250 shirt, man. I appreciate that.
That's a great shirt. I love it.
Yeah, it's comfortable. We only source the really comfortable stuff. We don't want. I want to wear it because I wear it all the time, so I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All right. Citation and not disclosing things like what you just did. You bought a shirt. That's part of the ROI.
Yeah.
Coming on.
Yeah, I will disclose, but they won't. Yeah, there's in numerous cases where they're citing either like something Linda Darley-Hammond did maybe earlier before she started LPI or afterwards, but there are just some protocols around how you should be handling when you're citing your own stuff or stuff that your leader say wrote. The other part, and that's not really in this so much, but I mention some tie-in, like it's in that next part where there's a tie-in to this PFL, or Partnership for the Future of Learning, which I know we've talked about before, but it's the way I describe the PFL. Just think, for those out there, PFL is a large national, or it was, there was a notification on their website they shut down 2 months ago, just out of the blue. But for the last 10 years, 11 years really, they were a huge network of nonprofits and state public officials and some for-profits and a smattering of other people, 900 in total around the country, pushing for the community school model. But it's the one network you'll never hear, because PFL itself wasn't really in the news. That name didn't get used. They would coordinate all the activity for these other partners to be pushing, to get, the mission of the model out there. So you wouldn't really hear from the PFL. You would hear from Learning Policy Institute. You'd hear from the NEPC. You'd hear from like NYU Metro Center. You're going to hear from Education Trust. I'm trying to think of the names off the top of my head. I mean, there are a lots of these organizations are out there pushing the same material, like in California, Public Advocates.
Sure.
I could go on, but they don't talk about this at all. The connection to this, and what's interesting is that, and that's partly why I looked at this report too, is that Learning Policy Institute was one of the founding members of the PFL,
Oh, jeez.
and they,
They're so incestuous, man. The education.
yeah, and that Linda Darling Hammond was on their steering committee, so she's also the one helping to drive the focus of the PFL.
Sure.
They
Sure.
did a report for the PFL on community schools before they released this report on the evidence behind it and made it public.
Jesus.
So there's just all these undisclosed
Wow.
connections between them and even people in this report. Like some of the studies were done by Communities in Schools, which is a PFL partner. Research in Action is another one. Or Research for Action, right there under Finding 10 is another PFL partner.
Yep.
Where it just gets to that point of could you have disclosed your connection to these organizations?
Damn.
And more importantly, this is the part that I haven't released publicly yet, because everything takes time, but I'm hoping maybe next week I will. And then I intend to go to the US Department of Ed and push them to have this report
Awesome.
yanked. But the funding. So Learning Policy Institute was funded by Sandler, Atlantic Philanthropies, Ford Foundation, 3 others, and I've been cross-checking against, well, who funded the studies that were in their report, and it's just no surprise. Hey, look, there's Atlantic Philanthropies, here's Sandler, here's so they didn't disclose the funding ties, which they should. If they're a legitimate organization, they should say openly, hey, by the way, this was a study funded by the same organization who funds us.
Jeez.
But they don't.
Wow. What a just tracing that is just. And so basically what you've done, at least in the very beginning, is go through the pieces that you found that were misleading or outright wrong. And obviously then it were all the where it's very unethical, pretty well, you don't disclose the relationship, you don't disclose where the funding and or your boss is sitting on the board and those kind of things. So that's what I mean, just that alone obviously drives calls to question the authenticity of this or the honesty of this report. And this is the report that states are using to pump hundreds of millions into community schools and school-based health centers.
Yeah. Or in California's case, now I think they just added another billion. So I think they're over $5 billion of investment.
Right.
And there's still federal programs. I know the Trump administration killed off a lot of the grants for the full service community school program.
Right.
That was one of many grant programs that they were using for funding.
Right.
They use the term braided funding. Braided funding. It's like we get funding from all these different places and weave it together.
Yep. Braided funding. You know what? I've never heard of that term, but that's a very the imagination is perfect. The visual on that braided. So you can shut down one, but you've got all the twists and ties anyway. So this
is how they think. I mean, I've learned to adopt their language because they are excellent at narrative framing. I mean, they even have a group called Frameworks Institute as part of the PFL that they're all members of that helps them with the narrative framing. Like, how do I frame this in a way that sounds appealing to people on the left, the right, the middle, politicians? Like, they are
the PFL
slick.
Uses what now? Uses an organization called what?
Frameworks Institute.
Frameworks Institute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Narrative framing is like one of their expertises, and they are excellent. I mean, they
excellent
are
at it.
Very good. Their stuff is always very targeted, very well written. Tugs at the emotions, at the heart.
Well, I always say that the big weakness for Republicans and conservatives is that they always default. Their first, second, and third instinct is to default to facts and logic. And they're very literal. Whereas our enemies are very strategic. They're very tactical. And more importantly, they're great storytellers.
Amazing at it. Yeah.
And then so when you try to fight story with facts, you already lost. Because when you try to fight story with facts, their closing checkmate move is you just want to kill black people.
Yeah.
and hurt black kids and white supremacy because you don't want this. Who
Yeah.
doesn't want community centers? Who doesn't want to help black single moms not miss work?
Yeah.
You
No,
realize.
this is the part where it's like I wish I could get the information out of my head better in a way that helps people, but like this is one part. So I appreciate you having me on to talk about this, but that same PFL group that's behind this or tied to this, when there was a COVID-19 response, they were there helping to produce videos.
Yep.
The same thing for pushing community schools.
Yep.
Like I mentioned Cincinnati earlier, there was a group called Media Sutra that did a whole video series on Cincinnati community schools.
Mhm.
I think it was around 2019. I might have the date. It's somewhere around there, and they produced it, but it was planned and funded by the PFL. So it's like this? Why is this network advocacy group hiring a consultant,
Yeah.
to do media and do these videos of a public school system? It's like because they're embedded there, they got what they wanted, so they could pitch the model elsewhere. But that just
Right.
shows you how advanced they are. That they're,
Mhm.
I mean, you just have to kind of look at them in awe. Like, wow, you are that
You are.
organized. It's
You that
crazy.
organized. It's crazy, yeah.
But they
So
are. It's real.
what our enemies do is that they have a North Star, which is communism. They have that North Star. So everything they do is in service for that long goal. So they might have to take a off ramp here and there, but they always know what's the road to come back on. And so it looks very coordinated simply because they're all marching to the same goal, which is
Mhm.
destroy America, right? But in order to do that, you got to get the kids away from the parents, and so those are the big pillars that they have. But our side, normal people, not even just not even just saying conservatives, just normal people, right? Like I consider like you and I just normal guys, right? We're not like, oh, this is Republicans or politics, It's just we're normal dudes, right? And normal people don't deal with something until it's already cemented 15, 20 years in, and it's a big problem.
Mhm.
So then we deal with something when it's already at critical mass. But then by that time, you're fighting 15, 20 years, or it's already baked into everything, and it's almost impossible to get it out. And while we're trying to chip away at hardened cement, our enemies are already pouring the next thing
Yeah.
down the line that we won't even talk about for another 10 years. Like right now, you did all this work for community schools. I promise you, most of the, any of the big education, organization or everything, no talking head is going to talk about community schools. Maybe in about 5 or 6 years when it's completely baked in, then
Yeah.
they'll talk about it as if it's new. So this is the problem with when you're fighting communism that's always pushing what they want. And then normal people are always saying, stop, this is what I don't want. It's a
Yeah.
hard sell.
Yeah, and that's why, like I think we try different tactics, right? And try, does this work? Does this work? And for me, I've known myself well enough to know I'm not the guy who's going to be starting a big group
Right.
or start a nonprofit and get organized. That's just not
Right.
my skill set. But
Right.
digging, research, trying different things I can
Yeah.
do. And my goal at this point, like I remember drawing up a graphic years ago when I was running 2 years ago, running for school board, or no, 3 now.
Mhm.
And I mentioned to somebody like this idea of hacking at the root. It's not, I didn't come up with that idea, right? But it's just,
Sure.
I wanted to do that. And this is, to me, is one of those tactics where it's either there is objective truth that does
Mhm.
exist. And I think
Mhm.
we found there are problems here. And
Yeah.
if I can get it to the right, authorities to deal with, then hopefully we can hack at the root and get this report pulled out and not have it be, it shouldn't be cited on the federal government's page.
Right.
They shouldn't just do it on my research. I would hope
Right.
that they would have the people who would look at it and
Yeah.
confirm, oh yeah,
And
this
confirm,
thing is
right.
bad. We
Yeah.
should yank it and we shouldn't
Yes.
be referencing it. And what are
Right.
we doing that's tied to it?
Right.
Because I think it'll unravel. And that's
Yes, so many
something that
things.
they can't push back on. Is like their research is bad because it's not there. These things don't actually work. So this is something where I think we can win if enough
Yes.
people do something. And I do have at the end of it, it's like page 13 in the doc, there's a section 9 on recommended next steps. And there are some suggestions for what you can do, right? Because I'm not going to tell everybody what to do. I'm just going to give some ideas. And it's like you could share it with your state board of education. They may not
Sure.
listen, but so it gives a few very concrete
Got it.
examples of who, send it
That's
to
awesome.
your legislator, send it to these folks. I'm gonna send it to at least the U.S. Department of Education, and that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But it's like I'm going to target it as well, but I can't hit every all 50 states. I don't have
Yeah.
the connections in time. But if others are interested, I'll just put it out there. DM me, message me. I will
Yeah.
help you if you want to
Yeah.
go take it to somebody. You have questions. Yeah, you see, there's my follow right there. I
There you
respond,
go.
maybe not immediately, but I'm not always great about responding. Alvin knows that. I can be a little late, but I will. I
That's
do want to help. So don't be afraid if you have a question before you want to do something. You have an idea. I'm here
so
to help.
look, this is for the parents out there that want to do something. Okay. So Jeff has done obviously the huge heavy lifting. Our job now is to take little bits and pieces of it and condense it down to something that the people in that's next to us, that our local community at our soccer game, at baseball game, basketball games, swim meets, that they can understand. Instead of hang this report and say, why don't you read it? And we'll talk about it next week, which they'll never read it, is to come up with little, whether it's just a graphic, a card, three slide PowerPoint to say, look, this is what, this guy did all the heavy lifting. I went through the report and this is what I'm getting out of it. And our school's using this report to do all this stuff. And then here are the, maybe you can't do number one, but you can do number two, right? Or you can do
Mhm.
number three. And so then which, or a reporter, you have maybe you have a cousin that knows a reporter, you have a brother knows a reporter, then you've got number six. So everybody can do something. And I think when someone like Jeff does something like this, to me, I look at it like the way I described the Supreme Court rulings. Is this a sword and a shield? He's given you a sword and a shield, but if you don't use it, if you just go, okay, I'm not gonna. This is it's not a micro TikTok video, so I can't understand it. Then nothing happens. So he gives you the sword and the shield. We got to pick it up and then do something with it. Doesn't mean you have to read it cover to cover, but if you watch, even if you just watch this live stream, he explains all the salient points of it. He says, you can read his executive summary and then look at some of the key findings. And that should be enough for you to be able to say, at the very least, there's a huge parts of this report that's fraudulent, that's misleading. And why are we justifying tens of millions of dollars and putting our kids in danger on a report, off of a report that is at best misleading or at worst
Mhm.
fraudulent?
Yeah.
And so he's given us this. And if we don't use it, then then what's the point? Because he just laid down a sword and shield for us. So that's my challenge to everybody listening, watching, sharing. Take this. You don't have to create things like we create things. It could just literally be just three PowerPoint slide on a blue slide or whatever on a white slide, and just say, look, this is what I've gotten out of this report. And then you can go to anybody and say, if you want to read it, here's a link to the report. He's not charging you for it. It's not behind a paywall. It's just out there. And it's people like Jeff does work that's just incredible, and it's thankless, and it takes a lot of time. And the best way to thank him for his time is to use it, because I know that he didn't make all this just to have it sit in a drive somewhere.
I did not make it for myself, that's for sure. I'm hoping it's useful. I hope more things to come. But I'd say the bulk of the information's here. The rest of it'll just tease more, or we'll have more information about like the funding concerns, the stuff that really starts to smell bad. I will say,
and he's
just
offering
yeah.
DM, he's
Go ahead.
offering, you can DM him, so that's very generous.
Oh yeah, no, I want to help. So especially because I built this. My wife has helped give me input. Like poor her, she goes through and hears a lot of this stuff. But if there's a better way to put it, or if you said, hey, if I could make something that would be useful, like yeah, I have time. I want to help. So don't be afraid to ask. But I may not get back right away. Like within a day, I'll try. I will commit to be better. I'll just say one thing, if you haven't looked at the report yet, page 18, or it's listed 17 in my doc, has a good side-by-side graphic of traditional versus community school, because I wanted to give a better
Lovely.
visual that people could see, because I think that was when I met with some legislators, that I didn't have that, but I had kind of one that was in writing. that really hit home. So I was thinking, I need to make something that's more visual that anyone can use. There, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because that shows traditional as
Love it.
we know it, and then all the bits
Got it.
that are,
Lovely.
yeah,
Look, I mean, honestly, this is all you need, folks. Honestly, if you just take what amounts to be page 17 and then you take his executive summary, that's all you need.
Mhm.
If you want to take it to wherever you want to take it to in your local school districts, school boards, like I said, they don't know any of this. They have no idea of this report. They just cite the report because that's what they're told to do.
yeah,
And so you don't need to know who Linda Darling Hamming is, although you should look up who Linda Darling Hamming is because she is a huge anti-American critical race theorist. But these are the kind of people that are behind these things. Do you now ask yourself, do you think those kind of people have the best interests of your family and your children? Or do they want to use your tax dollars to further their goals, which is everything that's against America?
yeah. They don't hide it in their own materials that
No,
are in, like, not in here necessarily, but in
right.
within that PFL group I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
Like, they want to transform society
Yep.
through the public education system. That's why
Yeah.
they're anti-voucher,
Yep.
because they want every kid in public school that they can control and turn into these, welfare hubs, social services, and social emotional learning is in
Yep.
there, and
Of
and
course. Of
restorative
course.
practices. So, like, all that is in the model.
Yeah.
That's why I meant we first talked about the digital hall pass and that change,
Yeah.
because that's part of a multi-tiered system of support where we're now
Yeah.
providing all these levels of support and information to wrap around and support the whole child. Well, guess what? The whole child model is what community schools is meant to implement. Like, I talked to Kelly Ski, who knows way more about the community school model and its history. She's
She knows it.
phenomenal.
Excellent. She
Yeah,
knows it really great. Yep.
yeah. So we were talking about this, and she knows the whole backstory. But it's
Yep.
that the WISC model, the whole
Yep.
school, whole child, whole community.
Right.
This is the implementation of that framework.
Right.
And in fact, I was telling her, it's like the group that got WISC done and connected with the CDC to have it created, their Institute for Educational Leadership.
Yeah.
They're also one of the core members of the PFL pushing the community school model, although they don't really say that. But the connections exist everywhere. It is crazy. I wish I had like the board with the red yarn, on my back wall of like all these people connecting all these other people.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy. Then I'd look crazy. My family would probably tell me to step away for a bit.
Have you seen this? Our graphic on the wraparound services?
Oh, already? No, I haven't yet, but I love the visual.
Yeah, let me just save it on a desktop here, and then I'll pull it up instead of just look at the screen because I can't zoom in here. Let me just pop up the visual. We came up with this maybe like 3 years ago, because wraparound. Because you reminded me. I kind of forgot about it because when you said wraparound service, I was like, oh, you know what? I think you appreciate this graphic.
So I feel bad I hadn't seen it until then because that's phenomenal. Like it paints the real picture.
It paints the yeah. So what we like to do is, a lot of the stuff that we do, as you know, is very visual, right? So basically, it's a child, right, standing in front of this demonic tent, and it's this wraparound services, right? And then when you go in, here's all your wraparound services, and then on top behind is all the, obviously there's more than this, but they're all the organizations that are for these wraparound services, community schools, school-based health centers, all those kind of things. So that was our graphic for wraparound services. And once your child goes in, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. When you're looking at the services, like, it's and now they've just added more.
They added more. Yeah. This is actually not even close.
It gets a starter. It tells you part of it. But it is a scary visual, and it should be. It's like, these are nice sounding things. Like, for anyone who's religious, right? If you think about Satan, it's like Satan doesn't come at you by saying everything's bad and I'm going to take your soul. He's like, no, you're good enough. You don't need that Jesus guy. You're good enough. You can, like, so, and sorry if, I am a Christian, but it's like, for those who aren't, that's like the picture. It's like Satan doesn't come at you in a bad way. He
Nope.
comes at in a nice way, using nice sounding language, and that you're good enough, and because that's how you really can pull people from, from what they've previously valued and
Right.
what
That's why
they've
they say
understood.
he's a beautiful, right? He's a beautiful angel.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah, he doesn't look like what you imagine him to look like. He comes in beautiful clothing and beautiful words, and that's, appeals to yourself and the ego and all those things.
Right. Just like all those beautiful DSA people do.
Just like
Yeah.
all those beautiful DSA people do. Exactly right. Exactly right. Well,
Love
you know
is
what,
love. Yeah.
I truly appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, and for you to take a, evening on a Wednesday to come hang out with me and to come share this with everybody. I truly appreciate it. And I hope everybody got a lot out of it. Obviously, there'll be a lot of rewatches and those kind of things. But I truly appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Alvin. This has been great. I appreciate you and your giving me time here to talk about this stuff and helping to get it out there. So yeah, this is great.
Always a pleasure. Obviously, we'll be talking, and then we'll put together a couple of things here. Send it off to you. You can use it how you want to use it. We'll use it, of course, the way we use it. But that last graphic there, I think it's. I mean, honestly, I think it's. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you, and I will. We'll be talking soon.
All righty, Ben. Take care.
All right. Man, that's that peeing thing. Poof, I tell you, that is. See, there's no data. There's no data in the schools that that they won't use. So anyway, this is going to be on recording. Share it. Obviously, we covered a lot, but it's stuff that you're not going to get unless you get somebody like him that spend the tons and tons of hours putting that together. And that is the report that your school uses to justify all this stuff. So when they say evidence-based research shows, all those kind of things, that's exactly what you can see exactly where it's coming from. So as we always say, if you don't stand up for your children today, they will live on their knees tomorrow. My name is Alvin Louie from Courage is a Habit. I'll talk to you next time.